In this video, we are going to review IP restriction. IP restriction is a security feature that allows you to restrict access to DCDial. An IP address is a numerical label that is assigned to a device connected to a network. All devices connected to the same internet network will have the same IP address. So you can use IP restriction to whitelist certain IP addresses, ensuring that users can only log into DCDial from certain internet networks. Or you can use IP restriction to blacklist IP addresses, making DCDial inaccessible to anyone with the blacklisted IP address. To access IP restriction, click on the Administration tab, select Setup from the left side menu, and then click IP restriction. In the drop-down menu, select if you want the IP addresses below to be whitelisted or blacklisted. Or you can disable IP restriction by clicking Disabled. This means that neither the blacklist or the whitelist will be enabled. The IP addresses listed here will not be restricted in any way. Again, whitelisting means that only users with these IP addresses can access the system. Blacklisting means that users with any IP address other than those listed will be able to log into the system. Users with these IP addresses will not be able to log into DCDial. To add a new IP address, click Add IP Restriction. Enter an IP address and a brief description. If you want to make the IP restriction temporary, enter a start date and end date for the IP restriction. To make the IP restriction permanent, leave these fields blank. When you are done, click Create. You will be sent to the Modify page. Here you can edit your IP restriction. When you are done, click Submit. You have now restricted IP access.